Well, folks, I've been meaning to talk about this for a while. And what I've been meaning to talk about is a man who is running to be the mayor of New York City, right? His name is Zohran Mamdani, all right? And he is cool as shit, okay? We're going to be taking a look at different points of his campaign, different things he believes in. We're going to be taking a look at how he's doing, why he's our guy, the left's guy, the progressive guy, why he's good, why he actually is gaining popularity, and how we can help him win. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look today at maybe one of the most hopeful stories playing out right now in America in the battle for one of the most powerful offices of political, relevance in the United States of America. Okay, so without further ado, let's just take a look at a couple of his ads. Let's take a look at one of his ads. This one is called Small Business Big Priority.
There's a lot of things that make New York City special. For me, it's the delis and bodegas. Habibi, could I get an egg and cheese on a roll with jalapeno?
One Zohran special coming up.
Small businesses employ nearly half of all New Yorkers in the private sector. They keep the city running, but the last 4 years have been hard. We've seen the dollar slice go extinct, storefront after storefront close, and had a mayor in Eric Adams who has ignored the struggles of small businesses. That's why, as mayor, I'm going to make it faster, easier, and cheaper for small businesses to get started and stay open. First, we're going to cut fines and fees for small businesses by 50%. Regulations are important, but small businesses have to navigate more than 6,000 of them, with far fewer resources than the big chains. That's why, as mayor, I'll appoint a mom-and-pop czar with the clear goal of making it easier to run a small business.
Isn't that a good policy? Shouldn't more big cities have someone that is made to liaison with mom and pop shops in order to help them and prioritize their well-being in the community rather than big box retailers? Isn't that a good idea? I think so. I think that's a wonderful idea. And I think it's a good idea that is simple in a way that resonates with folks. It's easily graspable as a concept.
$1,000 isn't a lot to our city government, but it can be make or break for a small business trying to get off the ground. Next, we're going to accelerate permits and applications. The mom and pop czar will coordinate with agencies to speed up turnaround times, cut red tape, and let New Yorkers start businesses sooner. Because you shouldn't have to fill out 24 forms and go through 7 agencies to start a barbershop. But most of all, we're putting our money where our mouth is by increasing funding for small business support programs with 500%. We're going to invest $20 million in our Business Express service teams, which pair small businesses with a city case manager that helps them navigate permits and regulations, as well as connecting them with programs that provide them with financial and legal assistance. Right now, only 3% of businesses are using these programs. We want that number to skyrocket. The only thing more New York than an egg and cheese are the small businesses that make them. Together, we can not only protect them, but encourage new ones to make a home in our city.
Okay, just pure impressions of that guy. Handsome, well put together. That video is very well produced. Those policies are really good and genuinely would seem to help communities and, local business owners while not prioritizing the wealthiest businesses in the city. It's that's great. And that's kind of the general premise of Zohran Mamdani. Okay. He's just kind of and I've been watching his campaign for a while. I've been trying to see where does he kind of slip. And so far he's kind of having this AOC energy. He's an invulnerable campaigner. It's actually really, really impressive. Let's take a look here at what he did. He actually turned out to protests that erupted across New York in order to defend Mahmoud Khalil, the young man who was arrested by ICE, and they're trying to deport him because he led protests pointing out the genocide in Gaza.
How many more New Yorkers? How many more New Yorkers will you detain? How many more New Yorkers without charge? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
When we asked Tom Homan, all he had to answer for that cruelty was a smirk.
Because there is no answer for taking a man from his pregnant wife, who is due to deliver their newborn child in a month, from their Columbia University apartment, a day after that same man, Mahmoud Khalil, wrote to Columbia University and said he feared for his life. The cowardice that is on display across our city and our state is unacceptable. New Yorkers are looking to us. They are looking to their leaders for courage and for conviction. And what they are finding instead is collaboration. And that is just simply unacceptable.
Yeah, like this guy, I'm just going to throw it out there, is the real deal. Like, this isn't like a Cynthia Nixon style campaign where it's like, yeah, she's marginally better than her opponents. This is like a straight up, this guy is head and shoulders better than any other candidate that's currently running to be mayor of New York City. You know, dude is willing to fight. Dude is willing to put himself on the front line. Dude is ready to like throw hands in order to protect his constituents. You know, like he is like, that's, you want that in a politician. And he's firmly for the working class of America. So let's just take a look at his campaign page here. I'm going to blow it up a little bit. That's a little small. Zohran for New York City. Zohran Mamdani is running for mayor to lower the cost of living for working class New Yorkers. And like, that's a, you know, having been to New York, that's a pretty resonant message. It's expensive to live in New York. Okay. It's, you know, that every single working class New Yorker looks at that and says, hey, I want that. I want lower costs. Okay. And meet Zohran. Zohran Kwame Mamdani is a New York State Assembly member and Democratic Socialist running for mayor. Born in Uganda and raised in New York City, he has fought for the working class in and outside the legislature, hunger striking again alongside taxi drivers to achieve more than $450 million in transformative debt relief, winning over $100 million in the state budget for increased subway service and a successful fare-free bus pilot program, and organizing New Yorkers to defeat a proposed dirty power plant. The cost of living is crushing working people, but Zohran believes that government can lower costs and make life easier in our city. He'll use every tool available to bring down the rent, create world-class public transit, and make it easier to raise a family. And one of the things I just really want to point out here is that nowhere in here is he talking about needing to create like the next leftist Joe Rogan. You know, he's talking about doing exactly what I've been saying that Democrats need to do. They need to run on working class issues. They need to run on actual economic change for their constituents. They need to run a campaign by and for the working class. Okay. And he's just doing this, you know, he's doing it. Freeze the rent. His entire platform kind of summed up here. Majority of New Yorkers are tenants, and more than 2 million of them live in rent-stabilized apartments. These homes should be the bedrock of economic security for the city's working class. Instead, Eric Adams has taken every opportunity to squeeze tenants with his hand-picked appointees to the rent guideline boards, jacking up rents on stabilized apartments by 9% and counting, the most since a Republican ran City Hall. As Mayor, Zohran will immediately freeze the rent for all stabilized tenants and use every available resource to build the housing New Yorkers need and bring down the rent. The number one reason working families are leaving our city is the housing crisis. The mayor has the power to change that. And like, this is like it's not even just freeze the rent. It is, oh, we're going to freeze the rent and then we're going to build more housing. We're going to like build it up. We're going to build up that capacity. And yes, the person with the power to do that is in fact the mayor. What about the next one? Fast, fare-free buses. Public transit should be reliable, safe, and universally acceptable, but 1 in 5 New Yorkers struggles to afford the ever-rising fare, adding insult to injury.
As a person living across the country from Zohran with a spectator's interest in the odd and creative use of space in NY apartments, I support him.
Hell yeah, one-eyed heathen. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Adding insult to injury, our city's buses are the slowest in the nation, robbing working people of precious time for family, leisure, and rest. Zohran won New York's first fare-free bus pilot on 5 lines across the city. As mayor, He'll permanently eliminate the fare on every city bus and make them faster by rapidly building priority lanes, expanding bus queue jump signals, and dedicated loading zones to keep double parkers out of the way. Fast and free buses will not only make buses reliable and accessible, but will improve safety for riders and operators, creating the world-class service New Yorkers deserve. And that's amazing. Yes, we should go fare free on our transit. Transit is what allows people to get to work. It's what allows them to contribute economically. We should have public transit be free. The only reason, and I mean this sincerely, the only reason public transit is not free wherever you live is so that rich people can pay less in taxes. That's it. That's the only reason. Okay? But there's more. Okay? The Department of Community Safety. All New Yorkers deserve to be safe, but the Adams administration has failed to deliver the sense of safety and security that everyone should feel walking down our streets, riding our subways, or taking our buses. Zohran will create the Department of Community Safety to prevent violence before it happens by prioritizing solutions which have been consistently shown to improve safety. Police will have a critical role to play, but right now we're relying on them to deal with the failures of our social safety net, which prevents them from doing their actual jobs. Through this new city agency and whole of government approach, community safety will be prioritized like never before in New York City. The department will invest in citywide mental health programs and crisis response, including deploying dedicated outreach workers in 100 subway stations, providing medical services in vacant commercial units, and increasing transit ambassadors to assist New Yorkers on their journeys, expand evidence-based gun violence prevention programs, and increase funding to hate violence prevention programs by 800%. These are all incredibly good ideas. Yes, put social workers in places that are typically abandoned in order to use those spaces, and also make sure the people who frequent those spaces have the services they need. That's actually pretty important. And the idea here that, we're going to have a dedicated department to dealing with mental health issues, with the issues that directly have knock-on effects to real world crime or vagrancy or homelessness. Let's deal with that. Let's have a community-based effort to actually address the fundamentals of the issue. What I like about it is that it doesn't view each of these in isolation, largely because you can't address, issues of homelessness and crime unless you're addressing issues of homelessness. This is genuinely a good and comprehensive approach. You should be addressing both at the same time. Got to pat your head and rub your tummy. This one's really good too. No cost childcare. After rent, the biggest cost for New York's working families.
With Zohran, New York will finally get the rent control we desperately need and stop that terrible musical from promoting terrible decisions from bad people.
So true, Sake Tanuki. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. I very, very much appreciate it. After rent, the biggest cost for New York's working families is childcare. It's literally driving them out of the city. New Yorkers with children under 6 are leaving at double the rate of all others. The burden falls heaviest on mothers who are giving up paying jobs to do unpaid childcare. Zohran will implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years, ensuring high-quality programming for all families. And he will bring up wages for childcare workers, a quarter of whom currently live in poverty, to be at parity with public school teachers. It will foster early childhood development, save parents money, and keep our families in the city they call home. Again, yes, if you have someone watching your kids, maybe they should be getting paid a livable wage, Watching kids is hard work. I like this one a lot too. City-owned grocery stores. Food prices are out of control. Nearly 9 in 10 New Yorkers say the cost of groceries is rising faster than their income. Only the very wealthiest aren't feeling squeezed at the register. As mayor, Zohran will create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. Without having to pay rent or property taxes, they will reduce overhead and pass on savings to shoppers. They will buy and sell at wholesale prices, centralize warehousing and distribution, and partner with local neighborhoods on products and sourcing. With New York City already spending millions of dollars to subsidize private grocery store operations, which are not even required to take SNAP and WIC, we should redirect public money to a real public option. And honestly, yes, that's genius. Yes, if you want to be able to feed everyone in the city, this is a way to eliminate the food deserts, I don't know. Like you guys have heard me talk about this municipal grocery store idea, and genuinely in a city like New York, it could literally make a world of difference. Do you guys have any idea how like nice it is to live near a grocery store where you can just like go and get food? Like that can literally change the entire like functioning of a neighborhood. You know, it can improve the state of being for literally everyone in the vicinity. It's unabashedly good to make food more available. Okay, moving on. Housing by and for New York. We need a lot more affordable housing, but for decades, New York City has relied almost entirely on changing the zoning code to entice private development, which results that can fall short of the big promises. And the housing that does get built is often out of reach for the working class who need it the most. As mayor, Zohran will put our public dollars to work and triple the city's production of permanently affordable, union-built, rent-stabilized homes, constructing 200,000 new units over the next 10 years. Any 100% affordable development gets fast-tracked, no more pointless delays, and Zohran will fully staff our city's housing agencies so we can actually get the work done. You know, dude's the real deal, okay? Wants to crack down on bad landlords who are abusing their tenants. You know, like we're talking like the real deal. We actually have a shot here of improving the lives of like literally every working class person in New York City.
This is the DSA difference. You can recruit, run and elect super-based socialists and do other cool things like labor unionization and queer organizing. Join DSA today, folks. See the DSA difference.
True Gamer G, thank you for the $5 dono. And also, yes, join your local DSAs. Make them not stupid. Make them function. Make them good. Okay? Get out there and do it. All right? Join your local Democrats. Make them more radical. Make them less stupid. Introduce them to good policies, like the policies Zohran Mamdani is advocating for. Okay? Let's take a look at kind of how he came onto the scene, shall we? Let's take a trip down memory lane. Where did this Zohran Mamdani, where do I become aware of him at the very least? Here's an interview he did about 5 months ago. Here is one of his first appearances that I can recall kind of in a more mainstream way. And I'm not, an expert on him. He might have been mainstream in other ways, but this is where I became aware.
Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. We end today's show here in New York, where the city's mayor, Eric Adams, continuing to resist calls to resign after being indicted on federal corruption charges. In recent weeks, at least 7 senior city officials have also resigned, leaving the city government in a state of crisis. This comes a year before New Yorkers will vote to pick the next city's mayor. Adams has vowed to run for re-election, but opponents, including fellow Democrats, are lining up to run against him. We're joined now by New York Assembly member Zohran Mamdani, who is just announcing he's joining the race. He is a Ugandan-born Democratic socialist who was elected to the New York State Assembly 4 years ago. In fact, very interesting because in the last year also
important to note, like he did the work. Like he's been doing the work the entire time, right? Like he's been out there working to make New York better.
You have an interesting
point of privileges. If I actually join DSA and make it effective, how can we still have long meetings that can't get started because of internal problems?
Maybe you can throw one once a year in remembrance of them. Also, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs, Sake Tanuki. Appreciate it.
Record, arrest record. You've been arrested twice, right?
Yes.
What a badass.
First time. You were arrested in front of Senator Charles Schumer's house?
Yes.
Protesting?
I was protesting the response, the Israeli military assault on Gaza.
And as we know, immediately Chuck Schumer said something along the lines of,
people are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Indeed.
Was about a week after October 7th, and we were already seeing war crimes multiplying by the day. And I was protesting alongside Jewish New Yorkers to say, do not let their pain be used as the justification for more.
And the second time you were arrested?
The second time was with New Yorkers and tenant activists outside the Rent Guidelines Board after Mayor Adams' board once again raised rents on more than 2.5 million rent-stabilized tenants across New York City.
Well, Mayor Adams has made history. He's the first sitting New York City mayor to be indicted on federal corruption charge after federal corruption charge. Talk about why you're running.
You know, I'm running partially because of the fact that we have a mayor under federal charges, for charges that he has said he will fight with every ounce of strength and spirit in his body, which begs the question, where does that leave working class New Yorkers? And I'm also running,
honestly, good point,
because of the fact that he's been failing those very New Yorkers far before these charges. He is somebody who has run a city that is failing to meet the legal standard of what basic services look like when you're delivering them to the very people that rely on that city to survive.
And given the fact that there is such a large number of people who have already indicated they're going to run or are likely to run, including the former controller Scott Stringer, the present controller Brad Lander, Jessica Ramos, and even Andrew Cuomo, the former governor, why do you feel that you have a clear shot to be able to win?
You know, I think that a number of members of the political class think that the most pressing issue that is facing New Yorkers right now is the corruption that has engulfed City Hall, or an issue of competence with this mayor. And I think while those are important, the true crisis that most New Yorkers think about on a day-to-day basis is cost of living. And
Yep, 100%. The political corruption, it's interesting. We need to talk about it. It's largely theater. Okay, it's largely theater. It's a shell game to keep your attention off the real issue, which is that billionaires are out there, you know, millionaires, billionaires, and they're predatory. They're looking at you and your family, and they're saying, how can we squeeze a few more dollars out of you? Okay. And the brilliance of Zohran Mamdani's campaign is that he recognizes that, and he, you know, is more than willing to be upset about the state of political theater. But like at the end of the day, working class people don't on a day-to-day experience the political theater. What they experience is the actual material conditions they're in. Like they experience the prices of goods. They experience the empty bank accounts. They experience the hunger in their stomachs and the evictions. That's where the rubber meets the road, really. That's why we need to focus in politics on the working class.
And this is a campaign where we are not only going to focus on that crisis relentlessly, but we are beginning it by putting forward 3 bold proposals that will immediately take action on that very issue. We are going to freeze the rent for every single rent-stabilized tenant.
Hey, remember that guy who's like, the rent is too damn high? This guy is like him, except, you know, an effective politician.
Every single year of the mayoralty, we are going to make buses free and fast across this entire city, and we are going to enact universal childcare at no cost for all New Yorkers for children from the ages of 6 weeks to 5 years. These are the policies that will set us apart, and these are the policies that resonate with New Yorkers' concerns.
Because ultimately what you want to do if you're asked about this, like, is to just be like, yes, I condemn that corruption, and here are the actual issues. Here are the actual issues people are dealing with every day. And if the political corruption gets bad enough, I'm not saying that people aren't going to experience that, you know, every day. But for New Yorkers, where they're at is like, how much are groceries? How high is rent, you know? And this guy gets it. He just absolutely gets it.
And how do you expect to be dealing with the housing crisis in generally? Because it's not just the rent-stabilized units, but it's all the housing in New York that is so expensive for the average person.
You know, I think there are a number of tools that the mayor has to confront the housing crisis. To the first point, we have a city of 8.3 million people. Close to 2.5 of them live in rent-stabilized units, which are supposed to be the bedrocks of economic stability. The mayor has raised the rent by rates that we haven't seen since a Republican ran City Hall. And to your point, for New Yorkers who do not live in those units, what they've found as well is that the city is not picking up its tools. The city is not ending brokers' fees. The city is trying to veto an expansion of voucher programs as opposed to leaning into that expansion. And furthermore, there are opportunities for the city to be building 100% affordable housing on 100% publicly owned land. These are some of the clear opportunities we have that I will take as the next mayor of New York City.
And what does it mean to be
also,
running as a democratic socialist?
You know, I think it means that I am putting myself forward not simply as an individual, but rather as someone who belongs to a larger tradition, a tradition that says these issues right now are ones that have to be understood at a systemic level.
And I gotta be honest, running as a democratic socialist doesn't come with the same amount of baggage as like running as a, just another Dem, like that. When you own that label, you're setting yourself apart. And in a way, you're taking on a different set of baggage that people don't give a shit about if your policies are good. If your policies are good, if they're enticing, if they are interesting, people will care more about the policies than they will about whatever label you have.
And if we want to provide New Yorkers with the dignity that is required, we need to start making sure that everything they need to live that kind of a life is guaranteed to them, is not something that they can instead be priced out of, as we're seeing today with rent, with childcare, with public transit.
And if you could talk some more about your stand.
Also, can I just say, as somebody who's watched a lot of politicians, this is when he was like going from a guy who's just an assemblyman in New York to I'm running for mayor of the city, right? He is shockingly good at this. He is shockingly good at this. Like the way he gives a short, succinct answer to what is asked of him, but then is able to steer the conversation constantly into what he is going to do. That is a skill. That is something you need to practice, and he has very clearly practiced it. He's very, very good at this shit. And I think it's good in a way that is going to resonate with a lot of people, to say the least.
Stance on the war in Gaza, which clearly, or in the Palestinian territories, which clearly is not normally a plank of a candidate for mayor in New York City, but certainly will affect how people vote.
You know, I think there's tremendous anger and alienation across New York City today, whether it's these corruption crises or the cost of living or the fact that our tax dollars are continuing to fund a genocide across Palestine. And what voters are looking for is someone who can speak clearly to that crisis of confidence and of faith in the power of government to be a positive force in people's lives and to offer them a vision that is worth believing in. And that is what I am going to do in this campaign, is to put forward an economic agenda that puts working class New Yorkers first, all while recognizing the world as it actually is, which is one where there is a hierarchy of human life that the United States government is following that states that it is fine for Palestinians and Lebanese and Syrians and Yemenis to be killed, because that is simply the worth that they have in the eyes of our federal government.
So you're an activist, you get arrested, you go on hunger strike with the taxi drivers in 21, on hunger strike around Gaza.
Also, can we just say it's really based to participate in hunger strikes? I think that's cool as hell.
Washington, D.C., a 5-day hunger strike. You get arrested, but you're also in the legislature currently, New York, and you introduced not on our dime, ending New York funding of Israeli Settler Violence Act. Where has that gone, and what specifically does that say New York State should do?
So what that legislation says is that it should be illegal for New York State nonprofits to fund Israeli war crimes. And if you ask any New Yorker, it is quite common sense to say that charities should not be funding the violation of international human rights. But what we found in New York State...
That's gotta say, that's an aggressively reasonable stance, Like in the age of like Donald Trump, listening to a guy have like a very sensible and straightforward idea in politics is genuinely like just kind of jarring. Like there's a kind of mental dissonance, like pushing two magnets into each other when they're repelling. It's a bizarre feeling. But like I'm really glad this man exists.
City and across this country is when you dare to apply universal standards to Israel, you are left as a caricature as opposed to someone standing up for the broad application of universal rights. That is a piece of legislation that I introduced in May of 2023. It is one that has started to increase the number of co-sponsors we've seen in both chambers, and also recently received the support from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And also, we've only got about 30 seconds left, but you've promised also to eliminate all bus fares on city buses if you're elected. How would you pay for that?
So that is something that I would use current city revenue towards, as well as use the bully pulpit, the second largest in America, to continue to advocate for what I've been calling for since I got to Albany, which is raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers and the wealthiest corporations that do business in New York. When we've seen in the free bus pilot...
Genuinely, yeah, that's how you do it, guys. That's how you do it.
That we won in Albany just 2 years ago is that when you make buses free, ridership increases by 30%, assaults on bus operators drop by nearly 40%, and you get people out of cars and onto public transit. It's time we bring that reality to every New Yorker across New York City.
Zohran Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, New York State Assembly member, is today.
Also, he's got a very charming smile. Look, I'm just laying my cards on the table. Very attractive man, very good smile. And also, dude has been running his campaign. This video was 7 months ago. Okay, since then the campaign has continued, and he's he's been doing his thing. You know, here's one of his more recent ads from about 2 months ago.
I'm about to share 3 numbers that both scare and excite me. First, we're 2 months away from Election Day. That's it. Second, 50% of New Yorkers still have no idea who I am or what this movement is about. Right now, we're in second place and quickly closing in on Andrew Cuomo. You know, this guy. We've surprised the political establishment. People told us we would never break 5% in the polls, and the last one had us at more than 20. And a lot of that's thanks to you. Because the more people hear about our plans for a New York City that's affordable, the more they're on board. Who knew that policies like universal childcare, rent freeze, and taxes on mega corporations were popular? We did. We also know that to get to 51%, we have to share our vision with many more New Yorkers. Now here's the final number I wanted to share with you. 1 million. Our campaign needs to knock on more than 1 million doors. We need your help to do it. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring that one neighbor of yours you can't stand, but you also know could not afford another rent hike. The finish line's in sight. Like right over there. So head to zohranfornyc.com/events and help us cross it.
Dude's just like killing it. Like I don't know who their media guy is, but like genuinely, like these ads are fun. Like I like seeing him. He has like this relentless energy in his ads. You know, he's always doing something, and he's doing something that's like aggressively New York, you know, like getting a sausage, egg, and cheese, you know, like, or like riding the subway. Like he's doing the New York things. And it's just like, that's pretty cool. It's pretty good to have good kind of branding on this campaign. And like, he's doing the things. He's saying, hey, I'm just one of you. I'm just one of you guys. And it actually resonates because he is actually a longtime New Yorker, you know? Dude's killing it. And he's been doing a lot of like local news, right? And I've been trying to find more footage of him, but like genuinely his ground game must be incredibly impressive, because I if anything, I think they're under advertising what is being done in the local communities, right? So like let's check out an interview with CBS New York that he did. And this is from about 5 months ago, so prior to this final 2-month push. But let's check this out. He was on The Point with Marcia Kramer.
Mamdani is the Queens Assemblyman who wants to take on the challenge of running New York City. So I have to ask you,
please.
You've jumped into the race. What do you think that you bring to the table that other people who have said they want to run don't?
I think I bring a vision and a set of policies that recognizes the scale of the crisis we're living through. This is the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, but it's becoming unlivable for the working class who built it. More than 50% of New Yorkers are handing over a majority of their paycheck each month to a landlord or a bank for housing.
But how can you fix that?
You know, one way is that about 2.5 million New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized units.
Right.
Those are units that their rent is set by the mayor. And what this mayor has done is use that power to raise their rents by 9% and counting.
What would you do if you were mayor?
I would freeze the rent every single year that I was the mayor. New Yorkers deserve relief. And now.
But what about landlords who are going to say, you know, our costs are going...
Oh, what about the poor landlords? What about the poor landlords who are currently operating at a profit? Oh no, we'll earn less of a profit. Oh no, we'll earn the exact same amount of profit we did last year. Fuck them. They're gonna be fine. God.
Going up, fuel is going up, the employee salaries are going up. What about them?
What I would say to them is there are city programs, we've seen them, where landlords can apply for relief if their costs are not matching up with what they're getting from their rent. Those are places we can address those issues, but to say that we have to put those costs on the back of tenants, a median income of which is about $60,000, many of whom are fixed income seniors, it doesn't allow for people to stay.
But how does that look when you say to landlords you have to apply for relief from the city, and how is the city going to afford something like that?
The amount of sheer human fucking will it must take to not immediately respond with fuck landlords, because you can see it going through his mind right now. Hats off. Pretty soon the poor landlords will be stuck in the gutter.
I think that the city can afford it because I actually don't think there are as many landlords as are claimed that are facing this mismatch between their expenses and their income. Also in Albany...
That's a very gentle and kind pushback. Assuming he's like, I'm just not convinced by the statement you're making as fact.
We have created, against my will, more loopholes for landlords to actually raise the rent through means of individual apartment improvements where they can charge tenants for improvements they do to the units. So what we're
Yeah, by the way, something I saw about this that is related. Let me pull this up here.
Heating and air. A lot of this stuff can be mitigated and streamlined altogether. This is a pretty unique feature that no other real estate strategy really includes. And if you have to pay $30,000 for a new roof on your property, that could wipe out an entire year's worth of income. Section 8, not the same. Now, the downside to Section 8 is you do have annual inspections. They make sure the property is safe, secure, and sanitary. They want to make sure there's no structural issues, the roof isn't falling apart, all the utilities are turned on.
That's a big downside. It's so terrible that they make sure it's a livable apartment.
Basically that you're not a slumlord. Because if you don't take care of the property, Section 8 stops paying you. That's why there's this huge misconception that, oh yeah, if you buy Section 8 properties, you're a slumlord. It's a complete opposite. If you don't take care of that property and you don't pass your annual inspection, they stop paying you. If you want to learn how to buy your first Section 8 rental property in the next 30 days, I'm doing a free training this Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, this guy does that, and you'll never guess. Oh, here we go.
One of the best parts about the Section 8 program is you don't have to pay for major repairs. No roofs, foundation, heating and air. A lot of this stuff can be mitigated and streamlined altogether. This is a pretty unique feature that no other real estate strategy really includes. And if you have to pay $30,000 for a new roof on your property...
Wait, we just watched this. God damn it.
The number one reason people do not get into Section 8 is they're worried about the tenants. But Tom, what if they mess up my unit? But Tom, what if they don't pay their portion of the rent? First of all, the majority of the rent's guaranteed by the federal government. Second of all, the tenant might pay $30, $40, $50 for their portion of the rent. So your liability on rental income is very low. Now, as far as the tenant quality, you have to be careful here. Just because the income is guaranteed doesn't mean the tenant quality is going to be guaranteed. So you want to make sure they're not convicted felons, make sure they have no previous evictions, make sure they have decent credit, which is pretty common actually in Section 8 tenants if you screen enough of them. Ideally, you're renting properties to the elderly. They're going to be the lowest impact overall in the properties. They stay the longest.
Like, do you guys understand how deeply sick capitalism is in our society? He means well? I genuinely don't think that's true.
Long-staying tenants is key. Because if a tenant moves out every year, then you're going to have to turn over that unit and get it ready. That's why I like the elderly. If you want more details on how to get started buying your...
I'm sorry. This guy is telling you, not to, the poorest people in society. Hey, don't rent to some of them. Like, they gotta live somewhere, bud. Incredible stuff.
My $5 million yacht named Cersei is off getting her annual service. Let's find out how much it's gonna cost. Just wanted to go over the invoice that you sent me. I know you took her for the annual service. So the first $25,000 that you have on there, was that just the bottom service and the props, or what exactly was included in that?
So we have hall block launch. We got lightly sanding the bottom twice for 2 coats of anti-fouling. We got removing of the props so we could get them all nice and shined up.
Okay.
Sand down the artisan dries, paint them black so they look nice.
Okay, and then how much is the prop service?
That's another 12, 13 grand around there.
Is that on top of the 25K?
Yeah, that's on top of the 25.
Okay, so we're at 37,000. And then how much for the, what was he say? It was an oil change, or do we have to do an artisan drive service?
Yeah, the artisan drive service, we're looking at between 5 and 7 G's there.
Okay, so that puts that 42K. Do we have to do an engine service?
No, engine service, we're not.
This guy sucks. Like, I just to be real clear here, like, this guy's talking about charging and making money leeching off of the poorest people in society so that he can own a yacht, so that he can own multiple Bugattis. You know, like, when we talk about, like, fuck landlords, this is what we mean, okay? Specifically, ghouls like this guy, right? And here, I think I found what I wanted here.
Like ceiling fans, they're not required by Section 8, so I charge $25 per ceiling fan per month. Food disposals, $40 per month. Screen doors or storm doors, $20 per month. 2 reasons why I charge for such luxuries. 1, revenue per tenant. Let's say your agreed on rent with Section 8 is $1,400 per month, but you really want $1,600 per month. You cannot simply charge that tenant an extra $200. It's against Section 8 guidelines, and it'll get you kicked off the program. But there are no rules on renting out these amenities, so it makes it the perfect loophole. Rule number 2.
I found this sick way to charge my tenants even more money than I'm legally allowed to. It's called giving them bullshit charges. I just invented it. That's right, folks. You too can make literally hundreds of more dollars every year off of your tenants if you just, get the most desperate and vulnerable in society and tell them that they have to pay you for their ceiling fan, otherwise you'll kick them out into the street to die horrible deaths. I'm a millionaire.
In the unit during the time of the initial Section 8 inspection, you don't have to fix it if it breaks down the road. So if I put a ceiling fan in there and I don't charge them rent and they break it or it breaks on its own, I'm now replacing that ceiling fan for $70, $80, $90, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but multiply that by 750 properties and it adds up.
Yeah, just also, my guy, like, you're like, oh, if you multiply this basic cost of fixing a unit by multiple properties, it really adds up. What about charging people like $25, say, for ceiling fans across 750 properties? That seems like it would also add up quite a bit. Is this real or satire? Unfortunately, this is real.
Want to learn how to get into Section 8? I'm doing a free training. Click the link in the bio. You'll also get trial access.
He literally makes most of his money, I'm imagining, not just off of the tenants, but also off of scamming people by telling them how they too can be plantation owners in the modern day. Disgusting. So when we're talking about like predatory landlords, that's the kind of shit we're talking about.
I think by and large,
Plant, the power assist in your wheelchair got approved. Congratulations. Really happy for you.
Landlords across New York City are doing all right. It's the tenants that I'm very worried about.
So is that the only thing that would be your priority? Would that be your calling card for what your campaign would be about?
No, our calling card is going to be how we can make life more affordable for working class New Yorkers across the board. So what we
Are you telling me the owners of capital, gasp, may be evil?
Yes, my timing was off, but yes, I am telling you that. Matt Tatiahu, thank you for the $5 dono as well. Landlords, ugh, indeed.
we opened with was freezing the rent for rent-stabilized tenant, making buses free for the million New Yorkers who ride them every day, and making them fast because they're currently the slowest buses in America, and making universal childcare a reality for New York families.
So let's talk about
every single mom and pop landlord is exactly like that guy. Not all the time. You can find good landlords, but he's clearly not talking about the good landlords. He's talking about landlords who are fucking over their clients, or tenants rather.
Making buses fast. How in the world, with the traffic, even with congestion pricing, are you going to make buses faster?
So there are a couple of ways. One thing is that the city has tools it's not currently using, like preferential signaling for a bus that can hold a green light for longer when a bus is actually moving through. Right now, we're not using that technology.
But that adds to congestion.
Not if you actually have the majority of people on that bus, because what we've seen is so many New Yorkers are riding it. It's 8 miles an hour across the average, but in Manhattan, in the Central Business District, 5 miles an hour. The other thing is that when you make a bus free, you can enable all door boarding.
Yeah, that is one of the big reasons you want people to do public transit, right? It reduces congestion because instead of taking up a huge amount of space in cars, they instead take up a small amount of space in a bus. Same premise of a subway.
And if you've taken a bus, you know you've stood at the front of the line when an auntie is reaching into her purse and looking for the Metro card. You don't have to have that anymore.
But how much is that going to cost the MTA, which has miles and miles and miles of monetary problems?
I think that an estimate looks like around $700 to $800 million a year, and that,
which honestly is not that bad. You know, it's not that bad.
May sound like a significant amount of money,
It
which
does.
it is, but between a $350 billion budget across both New York City level and New York State level, it's a question of priorities. Do we believe that working class...
Yeah, do you not think that we can use like 0.1% of our taxes to have free buses to get people to and from work and to and from the places they want to go? Like, I don't know. I think that like you can afford to spend 0.1 or 0.03% of, you know, like I think you can do that actually.
New Yorkers, 1 in 5 of whom can't afford public transit any longer. Do we believe they deserve liberty?
But see, here's then the question. Do you then have to raise the fares for everybody else so that the MTA can actually afford to do
What do you mean no one's paying fares? They're free. It's free.
that?
No, I do not think you can raise the fare on working class New Yorkers. I think that this constant fare raising is something that we should...
Oh, for the subway. My bad. In
fact, be getting this money from elsewhere. One other point I'll make. When you make the bus free, it's not just economic benefits, it's also public safety benefits. We won a free bus pilot where we made one bus route in each borough free. We saw a drop in assaults on bus drivers by 38.9%, an increase in ridership by 30%. And
yeah, because guys, when someone's trying to get on a bus, right? If someone's trying to get on a bus and it's like their way to get home or their way to get to work or whatever, and the bus driver says, nope, sorry, you didn't pay your fare, people get angry. And they will fight the bus driver. Like, that is what happens when, like, existentially you need access to transportation and society paywalls it, you know?
We saw that of the new riders, 11% had previously been driving a car or taking a cab. Now there was less congestion because they were getting on the bus.
But, you know, there's a part of me that wonders whether the people who run against you in the mayor's race are going to accept, you know, somebody that's that far to the left, or they're going to be more middle of the road. And which path do you think that New Yorkers are going to follow in terms of picking somebody?
It also fixes the fare evasion problem with the MTA currently. No fares, no enforcement of fare evasion, and no missed fares.
Exactly. Like, you also don't have to, like, have a bajillion cops in the subway at all times, making it weirdly ominous to take public transit. Because there's the law there's no law being violated by like just walking out of the subway now. Like, it just seems overall it would reduce costs.
To replace the current mayor.
I think New Yorkers are tired of the ideological branding, frankly. I mean, look, I am somebody who's running an unabashedly progressive campaign. There's no doubt about it. And at the same time, I went and spoke to voters who voted for Trump on Fordham Road and on Hillside Avenue, places that we saw the biggest swings towards Trump. And what they told me the number one concern for them was cost of living.
And that was why they voted for Trump.
That's what they said, that they wanted change, they wanted someone addressing the cost of living crisis, and they wanted peace in a time of war. Now, we know Trump is insincere about many of those things, if not all of them. But frankly, we need to hear voters as to what they're feeling and provide them with an answer to it.
So I wonder what information, what lessons you take from the fact that President Trump did very well in New York for a Republican. He got 43% of the vote in what's basically been a blue state. So was that a repudiation of liberal policies because he was very, very conservative?
No, I actually think...
How sad is it going to be when the people inevitably vote Cuomo as mayor? You know, we'll get to that. Don't you worry.
It was a repudiation of the Democratic Party's abandoning of working class voters as opposed to liberal policies at large. I think it was a repudiation of an attempt to speak about values and emotion as opposed to the economy. You know, when we listen to New Yorkers, they tell us they can't afford their basic day-to-day life. They don't care about democracy or fascism. They care of whether or not they can go to the grocery store and actually buy the milk and the eggs that they need.
So who's going to pay for all of this?
I think that we can find the money, one, through a better use of funds than what Eric Adams has been doing while he's been the mayor, and two, by raising taxes on the wealthiest corporations that we have doing business across New York State.
And the wealthiest corporations would be who?
You know, I mean, we think about who does business across New York State. Those corporations include businesses like Google, like Apple, like Microsoft. We can look at that list. And the beauty of New York State tax law is you need not be headquartered in New York State to be eligible for taxes. It's just that your business has to operate.
I guess the thing that worries me in terms of people who...
NYC hasn't gone Cuomo-sexual yet.
Indeed it hasn't, Sake Tanuki. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. I'm enjoying the fact that this is kind of a more antagonistic interview, and I think he's still killing it.
Talk about taxes is the problem of outmigration. And New York has lost thousands and thousands and thousands of people to people leaving the state because of high taxes. And corporations have left because of high taxes.
Yeah, but when you're talking about people leaving because of high taxes, the entire premise of what he's putting forward is taking the tax burden and putting it on the wealthiest people in the country who, frankly, let's be honest here, don't give a fuck. You know, if you're wealthy enough to live in like a penthouse in New York City or whatever, like you have enough money to not care about that. And generally speaking, and I've looked at the data of like, you know, capital flight from places that tax them more, like New York City. And generally speaking, it just doesn't happen. It's like a myth that it's kind of like a boogeyman that's rolled out in order to like, oh, don't you change, the rich people might leave. Like, no, it's the cultural hub of like the East Coast. Like they're gonna stay there.
And the projections are that by the next census,
like, have you ever tried to move somewhere? It's a colossal pain in the ass.
When we would have to decide how many seats we get, we're going to lose another seat because over 2 million people are going to also leave New York. So aren't you afraid that heavy and new tax policy will add to the outmigration problems?
So I agree with you in that outmigration is a critically important issue. I disagree on the reasons for why it's occurring. I think in studies that I've seen, it's working class New Yorkers who are disproportionately leaving at higher numbers because they can't afford life here. And after housing, the number one cost is childcare, because we have an annual cost of $20,000 to $25,000 a year if you want to put your kid into childcare. What we've seen in other places like Quebec,
I'm sorry, any of you got an extra $25,000 laying around, chat? You know, any of you got that? Because most people don't.
When they instituted universal childcare, they saw a 10-to-1 return on their investment.
That's the thing. That's the thing. If you have universal childcare, hey guys, if you have universal childcare, what does that mean economically? Just real quick. What does it mean if there's universal childcare? More kids? Nope. More people working. Kiwi Tipi, Lady Domina, welcome to the world of being correct, because you guys understand it. You free up people to do work. You free up people to support their families more effectively. That means they pay more in taxes. It means they're able to get themselves up on their feet. It means they're able to do more stuff. That's good. It generates economic growth to have laboring, you know? And so like, yeah, of course you're going to see, you're freeing up like a huge portion of the population to actually continue contributing economically to the city.
I think that we have to address outmigration. The way that I think we can actually do it is by investing in working class people and keeping them here.
So let's talk about Eric Adams. Do you think Eric Adams has a path to running again?
I think he will run again, whether or not there's a path.
Seriously?
I do.
And will voters vote for him?
I think some will vote for him, but I don't think that much of his base will. Because, you know, when he ran with promises to working class New Yorkers.
But he also ran to make the streets safer, and he can brag about the fact that most crimes, other than assault and hate crimes, are down.
You know, that seems bad, though. Most crimes are down, but not the assault and the hate crimes, though. That's not... You know, putting those aside, he's done a pretty great job, you know, aside from reducing assaults and hate crimes.
Well, I think the issue is that he was talking about crime even when these statistics were not backing it up in that time either. And it was about the emotion of crime, the emotion of feeling unsafe. And for many New Yorkers, that emotion still continues. And I think we have to address it by being serious about it, as opposed to what his approach has largely been, which is that of impunity, whether it be for his police department or his own actions or those of his close associates.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there for now, but there's more after the show on our streaming channel, CBS News New York.
What a queen.
We're here with Zohran Mamdani. So I'd like you to paint a picture for me of what Mayor Mamdani's New York City would look like if you got elected.
It would be a city that's more affordable, especially for working class people. It would be a city that puts the people who've been pushed to the margins of our politics in the mainstream. Policy-wise, we're talking about freezing the rent for those 2.5 million New Yorkers who live in rent-stabilized units. It's about signing the legislation that bans forced broker fees for New Yorkers.
But what is the point? The point is seeing more of this beautiful man talk about the glorious socialist revolution.
which is something the mayor has yet to do. It's about making sure that we go from being a laughingstock in many ways in our public transit with regards to the speed of our buses to being the model for this country. And also by making sure that people can raise a family here.
Have you ever fired a gun?
I have not fired a gun.
Would you ever want to?
No, probably not.
No, just like, have you ever watched the spark of life extinguish from another creature's eyes? Have you ever savored the last gasp of its soul as it leaves the body?
It's not on my list, I don't think.
What's your favorite place on the planet?
I think my favorite place on the planet is anywhere where there's not a Google Calendar, because that's a relief from all of the scheduling that I have to live by.
A good answer. So, you talk about housing. I wonder how you feel about the mayor's housing plan, the City of Yes.
So I have been supportive of the proposal by and large. I don't think that it will resolve the housing crisis in and of itself. I do think it's important to allow for greater construction around specifically transit developments, take away the parking mandate that has been a part of so much of New York City's zoning laws.
Would you take away all the parking mandates, or would you still leave the ones in place that were part of the deal?
I think that all of them should have been taken away.
Hey, let's get those cars out of there and get more public transit.
So who do you turn to for advice?
I turn to many people. Frankly, there are those that I've been working alongside for a few years, but also there has to be a recognition that there have been those who have been working on these issues longer than I've been alive. And those mentors, those people...
It's true. I have been known to be around and know people that fire guns without killing things. That is a thing you can do. It is an option.
People who've been pioneering this set of politics, those are people I also turn to.
So would you say that you live your values?
I would. I think you cannot ask people to do things that you would not do yourself.
So if you were elected mayor, what would you do with...
Honestly, I'd totally see her continuing that questioning Fred to, have you ever wanted to have a no moment? A Cheney moment?
Okay, totally unrelated, Saket Tanuki. Thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. I need you all to see this, okay? I hope to God it's real. Oh my, yep, it's real. It's real. Just a year ago, speaking of a Noam moment, Tim Walls out here, post a picture with your dog that doesn't involve shooting them and throwing them in a gravel pit. I'll start. God damn. Remember what they took from us, chat. This man was a born poster. A born poster. He was feeding his dog ice cream too, and that's cute.
I think we would have to finally own the responsibility that the city has to public housing residents. More than 500,000 New Yorkers live in public housing. We always love to kick this football around and say, actually, it's a federal government's responsibility. We know Donald Trump is not going to do anything with regards to NYCHA. So we need to take a serious approach to meeting the shortfall, the deficit of more than $60 billion, because right now the conditions are deplorable.
So what's one of your favorite holiday traditions?
Okay, this is, I was telling this to you earlier, but it's a little bit controversial, but it's lamb shank on Thanksgiving.
A lamb shank.
A lamb shank.
I love it. So are you more of a cat person or a dog person or neither one?
I am more of a dog person, but my fiance loves cats and I'm growing to love cats. The only issue is that I'm allergic to them, so I have to get my shots.
Does she have a cat, and what's the cat's name?
Doesn't have a cat yet, but I know that we will be having a cat soon, and I'm excited. Aww. I just need to make sure I'm not...
He always lights up when his fiance is mentioned. I think they just got married not too long ago, since this interview. But like, dude, I stand this man.
Swelling up and getting a red face.
What was the last show or concert that you went to that you remember?
Oh my God. I can't remember the last one, but the first one I went to...
Okay, first is good.
...was Coldplay.
Really? I love Coldplay.
10 or 11 years old. It was great.
So how did you celebrate your last birthday?
Oh my God. My friend had a house party where we invited a lot of friends, and she hosted us, and there was also a dance party, which was a lot of fun.
And you dance?
A little bit. I aspire. I'm not very good.
What's your favorite dessert?
I'm not very good.
I think coffee ice cream.
Coffee ice cream?
And not the normal sized tubs, but the massive ones.
The massive
ones.
Okay, because you don't do anything halfway. So
what are these questions? It's local news media, so they always ask softball questions because people eat that up. Like the front half was supposed to be kind of the grilling, and now they're chilling.
One last question. So if you were elected mayor, obviously you'd have to leave the assembly. So if you could pass one last piece of legislation, that would be like your dream legislation, what would it be?
I think my dream legislation would be the one that I'm fighting for right now, which we've been fighting for, is free buses. And, it's something that's part of a mayoral platform, but it's something we've been winning in Albany. And given the results of it, I really do think that we could pass this and make it a real reality for more New Yorkers.
And that's your dream?
That's my dream.
On that note, we're going to say thank you very much and good luck in your mayoral campaign. And thank you at home for joining us as well.
It's some good shit. Like, his appearances have gotten increasingly better, Here is another one of his recent ads. Let's take a look at this. And I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this one. I just think it's real fun.
I'm about to say something to you you've never heard a politician say. Please stop sending us money. Thanks to the close to
I just need to watch that beginning again because I love the energy he presents of just guy frantically running around New York City like, vote for me, like he takes off. Oh God.
I'm about to say something to you you've never heard a politician say. Please stop sending us money. Thanks to the close to 18,000 of you that have donated to our campaign, we've now raised the maximum amount of money we can spend in this race, $8 million. This means we have the money to be on TV, in your mailbox, on your phone. But there's one more place we need to be, your block. That's why I'm putting out the call to New Yorkers. Assemble! We want to create the single largest volunteer operation in New York City history, and we need your help. So join the more than 7,000 New Yorkers already knocking on doors and sign up to Canvas at zohranfornyc.com/events.
He's a fucking Casio watch. I love him. I love him so much. I think you guys should volunteer for this man. Okay? But full stop. So here's a link for all y'all. From his website here. Zohran for New York City. Join Zohran for NYC. Just put in all of your info. And you too can sign up to volunteer for Zohran Mamdani. And get out there, help door knock. I know we have a few of you from New York City. I know you have a few of you in the area. Let's get someone elected in NYC, okay? It is worth it. Genuinely. Like, this man has a decent shot of winning. Like it's like a real thing he has going on. And it's very, very exciting. And I'm really hopeful about this guy. I gotta be honest. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
I wouldn't even have minded him saying, there's one more place we need to be in. Your bed. Not really, if you want.
But his campaign has been gaining national allies and endorsements. Here's the most recent one. I'm still hoping AOC issues an endorsement. Apparently, she's overtaken Chuck Schumer as being one of the most popular politicians among New Yorkers. And it's real good. Will PV work with him if he gets the nomination? I don't know, but I hope so.
I'm asking Queens to stand up. I'm asking Brooklyn to stand up. I'm asking Harlem to stand up. I'm asking Staten Island, Wu-Tang Forever, stand up. And of course, we need the Bronx to stand up to show the political establishment enough is enough. Love you, brother. I mean, as soon as you launched, I texted Sarah, my chief of staff. I was like, yo, I'm endorsing Zohran. It was like day one. I was like, I'm endorsing Zohran. So my school, CASA, is right across the street from Clark City.
Oh, can you whisper that to me to pray if Dom begins?
South Bronx, though. 1,500 kids in a K-4 school. The Bronx is my heart.
The reason we're running a campaign about affordability is that when you ask New Yorkers what the #1 crisis is in their life, they say affordability. This has to be the campaign you run because otherwise you're trying to tell New Yorkers something that they're not actually telling you. When I think about the Bronx, I also think about the place where that crisis is hitting people the hardest.
The rent has been too damn high for our entire...
Who's this guy? This is Jamal Bowman. He's a very prominent member of the progressive wing of the Democrats.
Lives. And future mayor Zohran Mamdani is going to freeze rent. It's about governing with humanity, man. It's so common sense to regular everyday New Yorkers, but it never happens. And that's why we got to get you in, man, so we can have humanity at the center of our politics. We elect people to serve us. not billionaires, not corporations. And Andrew Cuomo is taking money from the same billionaires who fund Donald Trump. I know that Cuomo is a name that many know. This Governor Cuomo, who's running for mayor of New York City, proposed to cut $2.5 billion in Medicaid spending when he was governor. We got people like Donald Trump because of people like Andrew Cuomo. You want a new vision, you want a new path forward for New Yorkers and for this country, you will vote for Zohran Mamdani. We're gonna do it, son.
One thing I really like about Jamal Bowman is that he has kept kind of his campaign infrastructure intact. So like when he gives an endorsement like this, it goes through that infrastructure, right? Now, folks, there are efforts to do phone banking. There are efforts to do a lot of different things around this campaign. There's approximately 1 month left until the election. And I got to tell you guys, things are actually looking pretty good. Here is a rally that he held about a month ago. I've tried for the life of me, by the way, to find the full footage from this, but it's just not. I haven't been able to find it if it exists somewhere. So if one of you can throw it my way, I'd love to see it. But here is a short excerpt.
Today, I will be introducing the next mayor of the city of New York, Zohran Mamdani! Let's go, Brooklyn! Let's go!
Good evening, Brooklyn! Are you ready for a city we can afford? Are you ready to win this race? I said, are you ready to win this race? I want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight. We are living in a moment of immense fear and despair. Our minds chained to anxiety, our days with too little time, and our bodies with even less energy to pursue the things that bring us joy. But nights like this are the antidote. Movement is the medicine. And we're here tonight because we love this city. But there is a myth about this city, one that has persisted for far too long. It's the lie that life has to be hard in New York.
Can I just point out, it's so nice to see someone who is fighting for something. It's so nice to see someone who's out there saying, hey, things can be better. Hey, let's go make things better. You know, things can be better than they are. We are not doomed to suffer. We have the ability to improve our station, you know?
The lie that only the rich or the lucky get to live a good life here. I believe every New Yorker deserves a life of dignity, safety, and stability, and that it's city government's job to deliver that. I believe we can freeze the rent for more than 2 million tenants and build hundreds of thousands of affordable homes. I believe we can make the slowest buses in the nation fast and free. And I believe that we can deliver universal childcare to make it easier to raise a family in this city. I said I believe we can freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal. I said I believe we can freeze the, make buses fast and deliver universal. I believe we can guarantee cheaper groceries. We can raise the minimum wage to $30 an hour.
Hell yeah!
I believe we can crack down on bad landlords.
By the way, I still remember when people were calling me crazy for calling for a $30 minimum wage like 5 years ago.
And I believe we can do this while standing up to Donald Trump, a wannabe king who is ripping New Yorkers from our neighborhoods, our schools, our apartment lobbies, from the very fabric of our city. And as your next mayor, I won't just believe, I will deliver. Now, we face a choice in this election. A choice between a disgraced politician of the past with a government beholden to billionaires and real estate, or our vision for the future.
Let's
We
go.
are done with empty promises wrapped up in flimsy packaging of dishonesty and corruption. We want to dream again. The same dream that brought so many of us to this city in the first place. New York, since the cold of October, we have built something truly great together. We have built a movement that transcends race and class, a movement that reaches from the sandy beaches of Coney Island to the cricket pitches of Van Cortlandt Park. And we've built it together, side by side, door by door. Those cold months are now over, my friends. And what we have dreamt in the night, we will build in the dawn.
Dude is I don't know, like, what kind of, like, I don't know, radiation he was exposed to that activated his, like, mutant genome that allowed him to become, like, you know, develop the superpower of just being like an incredibly talented politician. But, like, holy moly, this guy knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to do an interview. He knows how to, like, actually push for good shit. And he knows that, like, this is kind of like the chance. This is the perfect opportunity for him to achieve that higher level. Yeah, you know, I've seen some people in chat asking, like, well, you know, I hope he loses so that he can, you know, do other things. But, like, guys, this is the stepping stone. You know, like, the mayor of New York City is one of the most powerful politicians in the country. And it's just that it could very well be the stepping stone for him being the governor or a senator, you know, but, like, he's young. He has plenty of time. Let him be mayor if he wins and then take next steps.
The sun is starting to rise. And together, New York, on June 24th, we are going to win.
About a month from now, guys. About a month from now.
Thank you, New York City.
Let's go. Zohran for New York City. Dude is just killing it. Okay. Now, let's jump ahead to, you know, a day or so ago.
Count a decision 2025 in the race for mayor. According to a new Marist poll on the mayor's race, Andrew Cuomo is the first choice for roughly 4 in 10 likely Democratic voters.
And remember, this is a ranked choice vote. And the poll suggests that many Cuomo backers don't seem to like any of the other candidates. The Marist poll shows 37% of Cuomo backers who ranked the former governor first left the rest of their ballots blank. Voters can rank up to 5 candidates, and in that same ranked exercise, Queens Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani finished second in the poll with 29%.
He's a Democratic socialist with some controversial views, but he insists his campaign for a more affordable city is surging. Government Affairs reporter Melissa Russo has a one-on-one interview.
Monday morning on Malcolm X Boulevard.
My name is Zohran Mamdani.
Zohran Mamdani is meeting voters where they are.
Like, dude is literally hustling every day. He's doing the AOC strat. You know, put on your walking shoes, knock on as many doors as possible, and just get out there and talk to people. You know, like the old school, the oldest form of political, like, campaigning. He's doing it.
I'm running for mayor.
For him, that means the street, and not only their social media.
That's perfect.
It's so nice to see someone exciting in the political arena and on the stream.
Right, Tony Sanfilippo? I thought you guys might need some hopium today. I've been planning this segment for a long time, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, I do really want you guys to be excited, and I really want you guys to volunteer for not Andrew Cuomo. Jesus Christ. Sorry, I was reading Natasha Thay's hell no Cuomo comment. I was just like, Andrew Cuomo. I really want you guys to volunteer for Zohran Mamdani, okay? And I want you to connect yourself to one of his phone banking operations or his door knocking operations, because again, he doesn't need political donations. They've already maxed out the legal maximum that people are allowed to take for a Democratic primary race. Okay, so like what they need is people power to knock on doors and tell people about his policies. The policies sell themselves, okay? All we need in New York City is for working class New Yorkers to actually turn out to a Democratic primary. That's it. That's it.
A master of messaging, Mamdani knows how to dive into a moment and maximize it.
New Yorkers live in rent-stabilized units.
He was the first Democrat in the mayor's race to max out on fundraising.
I'm about to say something to you you've never heard a politician say. Please stop sending us money.
Not everyone likes Mamdani's left-leaning ideas to make the city more affordable.
Zohran is talking giveaways. We don't need any more giveaways.
But huge turnout at rallies.
I said, are you ready to win this race?
And his poll numbers so far, in second place behind Andrew Cuomo, suggest he's breaking through in a way other Democrats aren't.
Oh my God. It's totally fun. What's the name of the dude? Zohran. Yeah, people are feeling Zohran.
He wants grocery stores that are, publicly owned. I think that's really, really big.
Do you attribute your success in this race to your socialism or to your social media?
I think that there's a combination of those things, because I think that New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, is there are different parts of my life.
That's such a shitty question to ask. Like what a shit smearing question. Like any person who has ever been around like people who are not just white, you'll know that like people do code switching. People talk differently around different groups of people. That's not controversial. That's like saying, is how you talk in church the same as how you talk with your friends? Which one's real? Like, obviously they're both real. You just talk different in different social situations that have different social expectations. That's just how human beings do.
A worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Bring the flavor to the fish, bring the flavor to the rice.
In a Disney movie directed by his mother.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in
That's actually really fucking charming. Holy shit. That I was not expecting that. I didn't know that.
New York City, this is how I speak, this is how I am.
Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
While Mamdani may not be giving typical...
Look at him, so duplicitous. See how he changes his tone and pronunciation in different circumstances? Here's a clip from a movie from 12 years ago where he speaks differently. Like what? Yeah, he was acting, but also just like, so the fuck what? Like, just that reveals nothing of substance about him.
Politician vibes, he's still playing to the cameras, often in the role of Trump resistor, which is less controversial than some of his past protests of Israel. He was arrested outside the home.
Oh, yeah, it's so controversial to be against the mass slaughter of children.
Home of Senator Chuck Schumer less than a week after the October 7th attack by Hamas, and he's used the term genocide.
All we are seeing from our politicians is an attempt to create mass consent for a genocide.
Anti-Zionist.
And they were right. He was right. Like you can't argue that he was wrong. They've literally been denying food trucks of anything close to a sufficient amount to feed the population in Gaza. They have been locking down food trucks for the past 3 months. And they just started allowing some trucks to come in. And the UN has described the amount of trucks as laughably short of the amount that is needed. It is an insult. It is effectively It's just I don't have words for it. It's horrific. The fact that he protested that should raise our esteem of him.
Is anti-Semitism. There is no difference.
In an Upper West Side synagogue last month, Cuomo implied Mamdani is anti-Semitic, referencing his connections to the Democratic Socialists of America and a proposal to defund nonprofits who support.
Yeah, because, when you're against, children being starved in what would be described as a war crime in any other country, like in any other conflict, even, that makes you bad, apparently.
Support Israeli settlements.
And we have a New York State Assemblyman named Zohran Mamdani, who is a DSA devotee.
I strongly denounce anti-Semitism. It is from a place of a universal humanity that grounds my politics.
Mamdani said as mayor, he would arrest Israel's prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, if he set foot in the city.
Hell yeah.
Mamdani could not or would not name another world leader he would arrest.
So do it. That'd be so cool. Do you know how cool that would be? We should do that, actually. Who else would you arrest? I don't know. Maybe Kim Jong-un. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have strong feelings, but definitely that guy that's wanted by the International Criminal Court for, doing a genocide and crimes against humanity.
So how should Jewish voters in New York feel that they've heard you say that you would arrest their Israeli prime minister, but not heard you name any other?
Because this is the most recent warrant that was made by the International Criminal Court.
I think he's fishing for votes. I think he's looking for the people who would attach themselves to somebody that would want Bibi arrested.
Before winning his Queen's Assembly.
Yeah, why would anyone want Benjamin Netanyahu arrested? It's not like he tried to give himself dictatorial power like 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago. It's not like he tried to basically subvert the rule of law and seize political power for himself that pushed Israel into a state of almost, conflict with him in the streets. It's not like he did that at all. It's not like he's currently doing a genocide, an ethnic cleansing campaign that his ministers have vocally said is an ethnic cleansing campaign. They've already talked about how they're hitting civilian targets. They killed like 140 people in one day, the vast majority of whom were children. Like, you can't make these arguments and act like you have the higher ground. I don't understand.
Seat in 2020, Mamdani, now 33, says he worked as a housing counselor and
can we just point out that yeah, exactly, saying, oh hey, that politician is really fishing for votes. He's really acting like he wants people to vote for him. Yes, he's a politician. That's how that works, actually.
Struggled to afford an apartment on his $47,000 a year salary, though he admits he grew up privileged.
I grew up without want.
Some trolls on social media are now calling Mamdani out for his recent luxurious wedding festivities in Dubai.
Oh no, he had a wedding.
But
I do think Dubai is cringe though. But it's his wedding. I'm not gonna be mad about it.
Mamdani says his commitment runs deep to helping New York.
I gotta say, the worst thing you can come up with is that he had a nice wedding in Dubai. Imagine how angry the local news must be all the time at these gigantic megacorps that run business all across New York City and do a ton of business with Dubai. I'm sure they're bringing that up all the time.
New Yorkers afford what they need by raising taxes on corporations and high earners.
You were a rapper, you were a tutor, now you're a New York State Assembly member. What managerial experience do you have to run a city as huge and complex as New York?
I see a mayor at its core as being a delegator, a liaison, a messenger, and I have a humility, unlike that of Eric Adams or Andrew Cuomo, to understand that you have to actually empower a team around you that are of the best and the brightest and not micromanage them to an extent where they actually refuse to work with you any longer.
In Astoria, Melissa Russo, News 4, New York.
Yeah, just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Apparently, he went on the Bad Faith podcast. Maybe, some of you have suggested that I reach out, and maybe I will. I just always imagine that I have a relatively small YouTube channel. I am sometimes like, maybe it's too small to be helpful, or too small for him to prioritize having time to do it. Largely because dude's running like a huge grassroots campaign. I think he's really, really busy, but like I would love to have him on. Send that interview you did the other day. Maybe that would get their attention. You might have been really frustrated by that interview. I'm also really frustrated by how pundits and news outlets are covering Zohran Mamdani, right? Because essentially they're just like, where are you going to get the money? Where are you going to get the money to make people's lives better? But it's so bizarre because I never hear that from Republicans, about Republicans in a lot of the media. It's not generally like, where are you going to get the money for those massive tax cuts? How are you going to pay for those massive tax cuts? The Republicans that are currently in office are all collectively talking about nuking our economy by passing a deficit that's going to increase it by like $2 to $3, $4 trillion, right? And so it's just kind of frustrating that like the same level of scrutiny is not given to people with policies that would actually help working class people. That being said, here's Politico. Free for all, Democratic socialists' policy pitches face tough fiscal reality in New York. Oh, that's so interesting, where he's going to have a tough time paying the tab. To fund his vision, the state legislator wants to conjure up $10 billion in new revenue through higher taxes on businesses and wealthy New Yorkers. But beneath the... Okay, so why would that not work? Beneath the sheen of that populist platform is a morass of necessary state approvals that threaten his plans coming to fruition. Standing in his way, Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul, who does not seem keen on raising taxes. Well, just going to throw this out there. If Democrat Governor Kathy Hochul doesn't want to help, she's going to have a very angry New York City mayor who's campaigning against her for the next couple years. Okay, I don't think Kathy Hochul wants her career to end here. I think she would respond to political pressure. And that's something that, all too often, Democrats have forgotten goes both ways. The governor, a moderate Democrat, has expressed steadfast opposition to hiking taxes on high-income earners. She'll be facing re-election next year, too, just as Mamdani would need her blessing to begin accomplishing his goals during his first year in office. Adverse conditions that stand to imperil nearly half the state assembly members' $10 billion bonanza. Let's see. Politico reviewed the proposals, found that Mamdani has likely underestimated the cost of his housing construction and school rehab plans by tens of billions of dollars, making it that much harder for the charismatic 33-year-old politician to breathe life into them. Additionally, his sales pitch to levy Big Apple corporations significantly downplays their existing tax burden. He articulates his points very well, and they make sense. You understand exactly what he's saying, former Governor David Patterson said in an interview. The problem is nobody told him there is no such thing as Santa Claus. See, this is the thing. They always talk about, it's a pie in the sky. There's no way we could do it. However, will they fund it? And again, it's just like you tax them. You tax them. You use your political power to actually improve things for people. And if that means, you do something and it's relatively easy, so be it. If that means the people above you are going to fight you all the way, then guess what? You get out there and you start hitting the podiums. You start making press appearances. You start actually applying pressure back. If they're going to say no and stand in the way of a more progressive agenda, then you need to actually be a politician. You make the narrative. So what are the other reasons, right? So their number one reason, he's underestimated the costs. People think he's too idealistic, blah, 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 blah. Governor Hochul might stop him. Let's see. Near New York City is a bureaucratic vassal of the state, meaning mayors need to sign off from the governor and bicameral legislature for everything from policing illegal cannabis shops to retaining control over the nation's largest public school system. In Mamdani's case, he would need to convince Albany to significantly expand the city's debt capacity and greenlight free buses in addition to passing the tax hikes necessary to realize his most buzz-generating visions. He's also pushing for an increase of the state-mandated $16.5 an hour minimum wage to $30 by 2030. That is so... I again, cannot get over how much I like that particular change. Almost doubling the minimum wage. Let's go. Let's see. So basically, all they keep saying, right, is that it's going to be really hard to get the money. It's going to be really hard to get the money. The assembly member wants to collect $5 billion each year by increasing the state's corporate tax rate from 7.25% to 11.5%. He's looking to generate another $4 billion by hitting the top percentile of New York City income earners with a 2% flat tax. The last bit of revenue would come from a combination of procurement reform and collecting fees and fines and fees owed to the city. Okay, like genuinely, the way that this gets ugly is just moderate Dems trying to have a spine, which we know they're capable of doing, just against members of their own party who actually want to improve things for the people. But like, I think, let me put this out there, that if he does win office here, it's going to be really hard for them to come after this man. Dude's basically like invulnerable. If they had more to get him on, if they had more to like pin on him, they wouldn't be talking about how he had a picturesque wedding. Like, that's the biggest knock against the guy. He had a nice wedding. Like, I'm just going to take a wild stab in the dark here, but like, I don't know. Did Andrew Cuomo have nice weddings? You know, did Rudy Giuliani? Like, I'm just throwing out there, like, that's a pretty flimsy attack, right? God damn. So again, a lot of this is just, well, but the state might not allow it. And it's just kind of like, well, then you play politics and you get it done. Okay. It's not that difficult to figure out. So those seem to be the biggest hurdles at the moment. And I have one last video from Zohran Mamdani's YouTube channel that I think really resonates a lot with what I've been talking about and the need for you to act. Like, there are so many heinous political actions happening around us every day. We need to go out there and act. And and I would really like you guys to act by volunteering for Zohran Mamdani for New York City mayor. It's kind of, it sets the tone. The New York City election sets the tone for the future elections. Okay. It is an important race. It is an important office. And if we are able to get a leftist progressive and show that these policies work in one of the biggest, most important cities in America, that means a lot. That will be taken seriously. And we need that. We need these policies to succeed. Let's take a look at what he's been talking about. Also, phone bank for him, okay? I don't have a link to the phone bank, but phone bank for him. I found a link, but it was for an event that was like 2 days ago. My bad.
Let's see where's next.
I'm gonna dial.
Can you read some of the Zohran literature?
Mama, I got them out.
So much, I think, what you encounter in terms of canvassing is not even people being hostile to a candidate. It's that people are really, really reticent to put trust in politicians. And I think that canvassing is an opportunity to try to build that trust.
Or at least I know their faces.
You don't know all of them, silly.
This guy is all heart and hope. And those are two very difficult things to feel at the same time these days.
New York, since the cold of October, we have built something truly.
People who I know from completely non-political backgrounds are getting inspired by this campaign.
A lot of people are feeling depressed and scared by things they see in the news.
When it comes to slowing down what is happening on a federal level, everything feels so insurmountable.
It's at those moments exactly when you feel powerless and unable to make the effort that you should.
Zohran Mamdani's campaign for mayor. I'm Adriana, I'm a volunteer. Door knocking wins elections, canvassing wins elections, connections, that is what wins elections.
I'm a very strong supporter at this point.
So we're just asking people if we can guarantee they'll rank him #1.
Yeah, I'll rank him #1.
Thank you so much. I also see you have a kitty there.
I canvassed a house that had 2 roommates that asked to be put down to volunteer. Wasn't in the best mood that day, but once I came across them, I was like, that really uplifted me.
People think of Staten Island as a deeply red
borough, but ultimately it is still a very working class borough. So the reception I've gotten is actually overwhelmingly positive.
The things that you care about, the people to the right and left of you both care about.
The Bronx loves him so far.
Hell yeah.
And neighbors were saying, thank you for coming to talk to me. Why don't we know about him yet? Or, this guy sounds great.
We met somebody who had never heard of him, but they instantly loved him. Sir, would you like a flyer for Zohran Mamdani?
You're voting too? Yeah. You're gonna rank him number one?
When I talk to people, they go like, I don't know who's gonna be running for mayor other than Cuomo. Everyone's busy working, so I can't blame them. But one thing you can do is literally advocate for the people that you want. And I want Zohran Mamdani.
The fact that he wants to implement rent freezes, we got someone to say yes, that they're going to vote for Zohran.
Especially when I talk to a lot of seniors. They're suddenly very, very interested in issues about groceries, the cost of living.
I actually met a few grandmas who I loved this pamphlet part in Spanish.
There's so many of us that do want a mayor that will actually reflect our values.
They were like,
hey,
we're number
Union
one,
man, let's go.
Neighborhood, we love him. And then I got to knock on 19 different doors.
It's felt healthy for me to be doing this.
It was either to go out there and actually do something about something, or to stay at home and doom scroll.
I'm just really lucky to be a part of something bigger than just myself.
New York sometimes feels like too big to kind of make a difference in, but it can be a small town.
Probably heard that way anyways.
Want to say hi to Junkie?
So we're all here. Also, every single canvas that I have joined, I have met a new person. Like yesterday, I attended a Shabbat dinner that was thrown by another canvasser.
I'm here because action is the antidote to despair.
There's a lot of feeling that we no longer have autonomy because we're not a billionaire who can buy elections.
It's the most optimistic thing that I have seen since the catastrophe back in January. And people really believe in this man. And I kind of do too. I mean, I don't I do.
I think he wants a city that's more affordable for people to live in.
You want to be in the meat grinder.
Yeah,
that's basically what it
that's
is.
how it feels.
Yeah. Living in the city, living anywhere in this world should not be difficult. It isn't that difficult. All we need is someone with the will and the strength and character to fight for us. And I think we found that in Mamdani.
Hell yeah. Again, guys, this is politics. This is what it means. This is what we're trying to do. This is everything I want you guys to get involved in, This is the kind of movement that I personally believe in and that I think every Democrat in this country should run. This should be the model, This is what we need. And you are not without agency in whether or not he succeeds. If you can, volunteer for this campaign. Pay attention. You can go to zohranfornyc.com/events to check out if there are any kind of phone banking events you can participate in. Keep checking. Keep seeing what you can do here because we need people, They've got money, we got people. We need to get Zohran Mamdani elected in New York City, okay? Does this only apply to talking to only people in New York City? Yes, you have to. If you're door knocking, you're talking to people in New York City. If you're phone banking, then you can be anywhere, but you have to. You then are talking to people in New York City, and that leaves us with one final coda. Okay, just to put a little cherry on top of the hopium. Okay, let's take a look here. A new poll came out just today. Let's take a look. What did that poll say? This is from local news coverage by Pix11. Cuomo's lead narrows as Mamdani gains ground in NYC mayoral race polling. And we all know that polling is bullshit, but you know what? Let's take a look, okay? An internal poll from Zohran Mamdani's campaign obtained by Pix11 News shows he is gaining on former Governor Andrew Cuomo in the race for mayor, although Cuomo remains the favorite. The polling by Workbench Strategy on behalf of the Mamdani campaign showed Cuomo receiving 40% of the first choice votes, with Mamdani getting 27%. Cuomo receiving 40% of first choice votes, with Mamdani getting 27% of first choice votes. Other candidates in the crowd got less than 10% of the first place votes in the survey of 500 likely Democratic primary voters. Okay. And essentially, this breakdown leads to Cuomo could hypothetically defeat Mamdani 56-44. So after you kind of go through all this and crunch the numbers, he's gone from having like a 25-point deficit to now he has a 12-point deficit, right? So I'm just saying, guys, like I think we have a shot. And it might not be the biggest shot. It might not be like a guaranteed thing, but it's a shot that is worth trying for. It is worth giving this a shot, getting involved, and seeing if we can make the difference. All right? It's really that simple and that important. It's important to try. What about pulling outside the party? Again, pulling outside the party indicates like we just covered it in that last interview. The previous polling from 12 days ago showed that Zohran Mamdani had entered second place, but he was down by like 25 points. So again, he's been doing better. I don't have more recent independent data. So get out there, do the things, and we're going to keep talking about Zohran Mamdani. I hope that you guys got something out of this, and I hope you guys take knowledge of this guy with you. And I hope you guys tell everyone you know about him and this campaign, because it's special. It's got some juice behind it. It's got some real, genuine, authentic socialism there in a way that is powerful and helpful to the working class. Okay? With that being said, is that just primary polling or citywide? The race that's taking place later next month is just the primary campaign. The Democrats are going to win in the citywide race. So if Zohran Mamdani wins this primary, almost guaranteed that he is going to win the city. Just to be aware of that. Okay, folks? With that being said, go volunteer for Zohran and, take selfies with him or something. He seems cool. You could probably do that. And let's make a change happen in New York City, okay?
Riverboat Jack is going to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.